A portfolio inheritance story that has an entire family about to crumble. Make sure you stick to the end to see who Grandma wanted to have everything. When my brother was 16 and I was 4, my grandmother set aside a shared portfolio for us. As soon as we were old enough, it was transferred into our own accounts, and it was only 4 years later that my brother dipped heavily into his and bought a new Honda. I knew about mine for much longer than he did before it became mine, and watched it grow since I understood what it was. By the time I was given full control, it was already worth a ridiculous amount, because a big portion of it was invested in Apple. And I'm torn on using the funds locked up as they are. Because, well, Dad drilled it into me to let it grow until I'm 40. I don't talk with my brother much. He's done some stupid things to the family over the years, and I did not really grow up with him, so all I usually hear about his life is coming through Dad. His new girlfriend works in law, though, and I've received a formal letter from her that both investments my grandmother made were designed to be for both of us to use, not just for me alone. And his was only around $15,000. Yeah, that number is right, but mine was only worth that at the time he spent it too. They want half of the value of mine now, and his girlfriend has informed me if I do not give them access, then the legal fees and fines would eat up my half, and I'd be left with nothing. The dividends alone support a huge part of my life, and they saved me a few times. If half of that disappeared, it would set me back years. I know it sounds selfish, but I'm really used to having the extra income back me up when I wanted to move. I've lived in 4 states by my own choice, and I want to move and take in more before I settle down, if I ever do. How likely is it that they'll win and leave me with nothing? As far as I know, there was no paperwork or will, just my grandmother's word. She set up my brother's account when he turned 19, but she gave them to Dad at the same time as my brother got his. Dad transferred the whole lot to me 6 years ago. For my share, I have all the logins. The trading accounts and the bank accounts are all in my name. And all the shares are solely in my name as well. Should I find my own lawyer if I need one? What kind do I need? I have an accountant I've used for years, but this does not seem like an accounts problem. Instead, it seems like a problem with the law. What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you're having an amazing day. I'm glad that you're here for this story. It does come with an update, and man, things are heating up. What a piece of crap this brother is to try to take the money now. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to help support me, and if you're enjoying the story so far, smash that button and turn on those bell notifications. Here is your update. Well, mostly good news. I worked with my dad and got my own lawyer. I got the timeline of my shares wrong, but it comes out the same. What my brother and I inherited from my grandmother was originally part of my grandfather's portfolio. He was the money-savvy one. My grandmother looked after those after he died, and she personally set up my brother's accounts and gave him control of his part. She did not do the same with mine before she died. I thought she already set the accounts up for me and given control to father before passing. Instead, the shares were in her will, and she left everything that she owned to my dad, with instructions that was set $15,000 worth went to my brother, and got his equivalent part would go to me, when I was old enough to know how to take care of it. There was no trust. She just trusted my dad. My dad did the right thing and set up accounts for me and gave me control 6 years ago. My dad put some of his own shares in too as an extra leg up. Dad admitted to me he'd chewed out my brother last year when he came to him asking for money. And Dad had supported him several times over the years. It got to the point that he had enough. My brother found out I still had my investments because Dad had used me as an example of how brothers should have used his money. That's how my brother found out I still had shares that have grown. According to all of the info my lawyer tells me, I'm in the clear. But it's not going to get to the point of finding that out in court, as my brother's girlfriend was only a legal secretary. I say was because the firm she worked for apologized and informed my lawyer she was terminated immediately. The letter I received from them had been edited to put her name in the position higher up than it should have been, and some of the contact information had been changed. A week after she was fired, my brother visits me begging for money. His girlfriend is now in serious debt, and she took a chance on scamming cash from me and lost. I felt awful rejecting my own brother over and over, and if he had not involved his girlfriend needing an amount well into 5 figures, I might have given him some. The next morning, I found all my tires had been slashed. Screw him. I don't even feel bad anymore. Okay, so I just want to read a comment for this one because I think it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, really stupid to pretend to be a lawyer with a real law firm. She's lucky she's only gotten fired and not sued. They're always going to shut that down real fast. Comment 2 says, I'm always waiting for the kicker when someone at a law firm misuses letterhead stationery and expects to not get caught. Sure, they probably expect their victim to just roll over, but thankfully, many people do their due diligence. OP's brother makes bad choices all around, it seems. Guys, I have to agree with that. I think that was an incredibly childish/stupid thing to do. Let me know what you think about this and how you would have handled it in your own situation. The next story title is, My coworker adopted a kid from Ukraine a couple years ago. Now she's going around work asking us to adopt him and writing about giving him away on Facebook. So, my coworker is kind of a weirdo. I'll call her Mary for the sake of the post. Her and her husband are one of those people that have a ton of adopted children. 8 so far, and are super religious. I mean, to each his own, but Mary enjoys telling everyone at her work her business, so when she decided to adopt a kid from the Ukraine, everyone heard about it. She went with an older kid because it was easier for her and her husband, she says. Well, this was 2 years ago. Mary has asked me to babysit the boy a couple times. I'll call him Tony. And it's never been a problem because I like children. I didn't see any glaring problems despite Mary's constant dramatics about how awful the kid was. And he seemed to like being over. It's just me and my boyfriend here, and our place is small but clean and really well kept. Mary's house is, disgusting, for a lack of a better word. Mary would harp constantly about how much Tony liked it at our house, but I just chalked it up to the kid having a good time. Lately, Mary's been at work talking to anyone that'll listen about how awful Tony is, how horrible he is to the other children, and how she's going to get rid of him. She sent out a freaking mass email to everyone in our department asking if someone wanted to take her kid from her. She calls it rehoming and states that it's okay. I logged on to Facebook today and the same story. She has pictures of Tony posted to her timeline advertising him for readoption and to contact her if interested. I have not replied to all their emails yet, and I have not commented on her post, but I'm this close to ripping into her for what she's doing. She's crossed the line from weird into full-blown psycho. Should I call CPS? I called the police just now, but they sounded completely confused on what to do. They agreed to a welfare check, and this post is still up. Is this really legal? I don't know much about adoption, and a quick search for rehoming gets me mostly results about animals. Any advice would be nice. Wow, guys, Mr. Reddito here. Can you believe the nerve of this woman? She wants to get rid of the kid she adopted and promised to take care of. I don't even know for sure, but I would guess 99% sure what she's trying to do is illegal. There's an update for this story. Let's not wait around. Let's jump right into it. This is a wild story. Let me start with saying a huge thank you to everyone that replied to my post. Now that the dust has settled a bit, I'm honestly kind of overwhelmed by the number of people that went to huge lengths to tell me about just how serious this situation was. Deep dived on resources, etc. Well, I got private messages from people that worked for local and state governments, and private agencies that were outside of my state but offered their contacts. I had people that spoke Russian, Ukrainian, offering to help contact the Ukrainian embassy, and offered for me to contact information for embassy departments. People even contacted us offering money for Tony's immediate needs in the event we decide to take him in. I'm sincerely touched by the genuine concern all you had for Tony and his siblings. I hope one day I can tell Tony that despite everything that's happened, there's people out there like you guys that actually care about him. The information you guys gave us helped us act fast and got the ball rolling on this situation faster than me and my boyfriend would have been able to figure out alone. I talked to the cops about the situation, and honestly, they were just as confused as I was. The person I talked to on the phone was just as stumped, but agreed that at a minimum, they did need to do a welfare check. I've had experiences with welfare checks before, and I had the nagging feeling that something just would not go right. And someone private messaged me the priority line for my state's Child Protective Services hotline. Well, I got someone on the phone right away. And as soon as I mentioned that trafficking could be going on and that she was advertising the kid on Facebook, it was a public post too, they acted with a quickness. I gave them all the information I had on Mary and Tony, and all the information I had from Mary about Tony's adoption. The person I spoke to right away said that she suspected that the adoption might not even have been legal. Well, I was floored. I emailed all the screenshots I had to the person I spoke with and asked for a follow-up if it was possible. I said that myself and my boyfriend were willing to take Tony on temporarily basis if necessary. But the CPS rep said that likely it's not possible. Then the waiting game began. Last night was probably the most stressful night I've ever had. Up to this point, I was ready to drive out to Mary's house myself, but I was stopped by my boyfriend. It was tough. The cops followed up with us at approximately 2 a.m. Note that I have not heard from CPS. The officer I spoke with was very cautious and limited in what he said, but he told me that CPS arrived at home shortly after he did. In not so many words, he implied that Mary had been talking to someone about meeting Tony the very next day, and that CPS suspicions were confirmed. Tony's adoptions, not legal. Tony was rehomed to Mary and her husband from another state, where placement needs to be approved by a judge. He did not elaborate further, except to say other issues came to light and all the children were removed from the home for their own safety. He did not say how long they were there, but said it was a long time. I was asked to drop off all emails and printouts to the station in the morning, and well, I agreed. My boyfriend and I wanted to make doubtedly sure that all our bases were checked. So I called our local FBI office, who said they lacked jurisdiction in the matter but would be writing up a complaint and referring the issue to the State Department. We called the Ukrainian embassy and made a detailed complaint, and I included the contact information I had for the officer from the department. Well, guys, the crap really hit the fan when I went into work to print out the email. Our company is pretty small, and the company owner, I'll call her Big Angie, because of her resemblance to the mob wives lady, had gotten wind of Mary's email. Big Angie was furious and waiting at Mary's desk to see if she would show up for work. My friend reported that Big Angie waited from 7:15 to 9:30 a.m., And that Mary came to work with a sob story about how her kids were being unfairly taken. Mary wanted time from work to clear her name and to devote herself to reclaiming her family from this misunderstanding. I wasn't there to witness this, but Big Angie, who had 6 kids herself, apparently ripped Mary a new a-hole. Mary has been dismissed, and rumor has it that Big Angie may or may not allow her to claim unemployment. My head is honestly still spinning from the evening that's happened. This past 24 hours have been insanity. I'm so grateful that the system worked as quickly as it did. I only hope it works out for a long-term solution to this problem and that Mary does not get to reclaim her children. My heart's breaking for Tony and the other kids right now. I don't know what the duck was happening in Mary's house that made CPS remove them that night. But I'm going to sleep better knowing that they aren't with a psycho and her husband, at least for a while. What the future holds for Tony and the children, especially because Tony's adoption was apparently illegal, makes me sick. But I'm going to wish for the best. I need a damn drink. So guys, the worst part of this story is, according to the comments, this kind of thing happens quite frequently, unfortunately. Here's a couple comments. I remember the story of a woman who sent her adopted son back to Russia. Did not tell anyone, literally clipped the note on his collar and sent him on a one-way flight. The next comment says, this was 20 years ago, but a Canadian couple did the same thing to their adopted Romanian daughter. She was 7 or 8, and they got the chance to adopt an infant. So they stuck her on a plane back to Romania and dumped her there, like a dog that's outgrown the puppy stage. Man, that is just horrible to think about how many times that could have possibly happened. If you have a story you would like to share that's similar to this situation, by all means, drop it down below. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, drop a little bit of love, maybe subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, or comment. Have a wonderful day, and Mr. Reddito will catch you in the next one.